Emily Parker, 32, stared at her phone in disbelief. The family group chat message from her parents glowing accusingly on the screen. "We think it's best if you take a step back for now." Her stomach dropped as she read the rest, suggesting she skip the upcoming family reunion. What had she done to deserve this? Emily had always been the good daughter, the responsible one who followed the rules, while her younger sister Megan constantly received forgiveness for her mistakes. Something wasn't adding up, and Emily was determined to uncover the truth. Before I continue this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy family drama with unexpected twists. I promise what happens next in this family betrayal will make you question everything you thought you knew about blood being thicker than water. Emily Parker had always prided herself on being dependable. Growing up in suburban Connecticut, she was the child parents bragged about at neighborhood barbecues, straight-A student captain of the debate team, and later a successful marketing executive at a respected firm in Boston. Her childhood bedroom still displayed rows of trophies and certificates, preserved like museum exhibits by her proud parents Robert and Diana. In contrast, her younger sister Megan had taken a different path. 3 years Emily's junior Megan had spent her 20s bouncing between dropout college semesters, failed relationships, and various finding myself adventures across the country. Yet somehow, Megan always landed softly in their parents' unconditional support, receiving financial bailouts and emotional reassurance whenever needed. Emily had never resented this dynamic, at least that's what she told herself. After all, she didn't need the extra attention or help. She had built her life methodically checking all the expected boxes, college career marriage to her college sweetheart James, and now discussions about starting a family. Her parents had shaped her into their vision of success, and she had delivered. "They're just helping Megan because she needs it more," Emily would explain to James whenever he questioned the imbalance in how her parents treated the sisters. "I'm fine on my own." The annual Parker family reunion was approaching, a tradition dating back to Emily's childhood, when her grandparents would host extended family at their lakeside property. Now her parents had taken over hosting duties, and each year relatives from across the country gathered for a weekend of barbecues, boating, and catching up. Emily had never missed one in 32 years, which made the group message all the more shocking. She reread it for the 10th time, analyzing each word like evidence at a crime scene. "Emily, we've been thinking about the family reunion next weekend. With everything going on, we think it's best if you take a step back for now and sit this one out. We'll explain everything to the rest of the family. Love, Mom and Dad." "What does that even mean?" James asked, reading over her shoulder. His face reflected the confusion Emily felt. "With everything going on, what's going on? Nothing," Emily exclaimed, throwing her hands up. "That's what makes no sense. We saw them 3 weeks ago for Dad's birthday dinner. Everything was normal." Or was it Emily racked her brain replaying the evening? Her father had seemed quieter than usual, her mother a bit stiff. But Emily had attributed that to her dad turning 65, a milestone he wasn't particularly thrilled about. Had there been something else happening beneath the surface, Emily's finger hovered over the call button. Direct confrontation would be simplest. But something held her back, a strange feeling that whatever explanation they offered wouldn't be the whole truth. Instead, she texted her sister. "Did you see Mom and Dad's message? Do you know what's going on?" Megan's reply came hours later. "Sorry, Em, maybe give them some space." The vague response only intensified Emily's confusion. Give them space. From what and why was Megan seemingly in the loop while Emily was left in the dark? That night, Emily barely slept. She scrolled through recent family photos, searching for clues. There was Thanksgiving, Christmas, her father's birthday, all smiling faces and warm embraces. Nothing indicated a brewing storm. The next morning, Emily decided to try a different approach. She called her Aunt Susan, her mother's sister, and closest confidant. "Aunt Susan, it's Emily. I'm calling because I'm a bit confused about something Mom and Dad said about the reunion." A long pause followed. "Oh, honey, I don't think I should get involved. This is between you and your parents, but involved in what I don't even know what this is, another uncomfortable silence. I'm sorry, Emily. Talk to your parents. They'll explain when they're ready." The conversation left Emily more frustrated than before. An unnerving realization settled over her. Whatever was happening, it wasn't a misunderstanding. The entire family seemed to know something she didn't. James suggested driving to Connecticut that weekend to confront her parents in person. "You can't just sit here wondering," he reasoned. "This isn't like you, Em. You always face problems head-on." But this felt different. For the first time in her life, Emily felt uncertain about her place in her own family. The foundation she had built her identity on, reliable daughter-family cornerstone, suddenly seemed unstable. No, she decided. If they don't want me at the reunion, fine. I'll give them their space. But I'm going to find out what's really happening. Emily's marketing background had taught her to research thoroughly before taking action. She would approach this family mystery the same way, gather information, analyze patterns, and find the truth without tipping her hand. She started with social media, combing through her family members' recent posts. Nothing seemed amiss until she noticed something odd in the past month. Both her parents and Megan had stopped tagging her in family-related posts. It was subtle but unmistakable. They were already creating distance. Next, she checked her family's shared calendar. The reunion was still scheduled, but her name had been removed from the attendee list. The editorial rights showed Megan had made the change 2 weeks ago, long before the message from her parents. "They've been planning this," Emily whispered to herself. "This isn't impulsive." As the pieces of the puzzle refused to fit together, Emily felt something unfamiliar bubbling beneath her confusion, anger. She had spent her entire life being exactly who her parents wanted. Whatever misstep they believed she had made, didn't she deserve the courtesy of an explanation? The following Monday, Emily sat at her desk at work, staring blankly at her computer screen. Quarterly marketing reports awaited her review, but she couldn't focus. The mystery of her family's sudden rejection consumed her thoughts. "You look like you haven't slept in days," remarked her colleague and friend Zoe, placing a coffee on Emily's desk. "Everything okay?" Emily hesitated. She rarely discussed personal problems at work, maintaining the same perfect image she presented to her family. But the weight of the situation felt too heavy to bear alone. "My parents uninvited me from our family reunion," she admitted, "and no one will tell me why." Zoe's eyebrows shot up. "You, the golden child? What could you possibly have done?" "That's just it. I have no idea." After sharing the full story, Zoe leaned forward with the intensity of someone who thrived on solving problems. "You need to investigate this properly. Start with people who might know but aren't directly involved enough to stay silent." Emily considered this advice. "My cousin Taylor might talk. She's always been closer to Megan, but we get along well." That evening, Emily called Taylor under the guise of discussing a birthday gift for Megan. After some small talk, Emily carefully steered the conversation toward the reunion. "So, I hear there's been a change of plans for me attending the reunion," Emily said casually. Taylor's voice instantly tensed. Yeah. Look, Emily, I don't know all the details. But you know something?" Emily pressed. "Please, Taylor, I'm completely in the dark here." A long sigh came through the phone. "All I know is it has something to do with your dad's retirement party last month." Emily frowned. "What retirement party? Dad retired in January." "We had a small celebration at their house." "No, the office threw him a big surprise party in April. Megan flew in for it. It was a whole thing." Emily's mind raced. A retirement party she knew nothing about. Why hadn't they invited her, Taylor? I wasn't told about any party. That's weird. Aunt Diana said you couldn't make it because of work. Taylor paused. Wait, you really didn't know? No! And now I'm even more confused. After hanging up, Emily sat motionless on her couch, processing this new information. Her parents had lied about her absence at an important family event. But why? And how did this connect to her current exclusion? She pulled out her laptop and searched her father's name along with his company. Several photos appeared from the Boston Business Chronicle's website, her father smiling alongside colleagues, a retirement cake, champagne toasts. And there in the background of one photo, barely visible but unmistakable Megan. Emily zoomed in on another group photo and froze. Standing beside her father was a face she recognized, Brandon Wells, her ex-boyfriend from college. The same Brandon who had broken her heart 12 years ago when he cheated on her with her roommate. The same Brandon who worked at her father's company in a different department. What the hell? Emily whispered. Why would Brandon be prominently featured at her father's retirement party? And why would her family hide the event from her? The questions multiplied, but one thing became clear: whatever was happening had deeper roots than she initially thought. Emily called her mother the next day, deciding on a direct but measured approach. Hi, Mom, I was just checking in. How are you doing? Oh, just fine, honey. Getting ready for the reunion. Lots to organize. Her mother's voice carried an unnatural cheerfulness. It sounds like it. I actually wanted to ask you something. I was chatting with Taylor, and she mentioned Dad's retirement party last month. The silence on the other end was deafening. Mom, why were you talking to Taylor about that? Her mother's voice had shifted from cheerful to defensive. She brought it up. I was surprised since I didn't know about it. Well, it was just a small office thing, her mother replied quickly. Nothing important. Important enough for Megan to fly in for it. Another long pause. Emily, now isn't a good time to discuss this. I have to go. Mom, please. But the line had already gone dead. Emily stared at her phone in disbelief. The conversation confirmed her suspicions. Her parents were deliberately hiding something connected to her father's retirement party and possibly to Brandon Wells. That night, unable to sleep, Emily did something she'd never considered before. She logged into her sister's email account. Years ago, when helping Megan set up her laptop, Emily had created her password. Knowing her sister never bothered changing passwords, Emily tried it now. To her surprise, it still worked. She felt a twinge of guilt as she scrolled through Megan's inbox, but pushed it aside. This wasn't about invading privacy. It was about uncovering the truth that her family refused to share. She searched for emails related to their father's retirement, and a thread between Megan and their mother appeared. Emily clicked on it, her heart pounding. The first email from her mother read, "Megan, please confirm you can make it to Dad's retirement party. Brandon's organizing everything and wants to finalize the guest list. Obviously, don't mention any of this to Emily." Megan's reply, "Of course I'll be there. And don't worry, Emily won't hear a word from me. Still can't believe what's happening, but I guess people change." Emily's hands trembled as she continued reading through the thread. The emails referenced the situation and difficult decisions ahead, but never explicitly stated what the issue was. One thing was clear. Whatever was happening, Emily was at the center of it, and Brandon Wells was somehow involved. She closed the laptop, her mind spinning with possibilities. Had Brandon told her family some lie about her? Was this about their past relationship? None of it made sense. They had broken up over a decade ago, and Emily had rarely thought about him since meeting James. The next day, Emily called in sick to work, something she never did, and drove to her parents' house in Connecticut. She needed answers, and she was done waiting for them to decide she deserved the truth. As she pulled into the familiar driveway, she noticed Megan's car already parked there. Perfect. She could confront them all at once. Taking a deep breath, Emily walked up to the front door and rang the bell, preparing herself for whatever family secret awaited her on the other side. Diana Parker's face drained of color when she opened the door to find Emily standing on the porch. "Emily, what are you doing here? I think you know why I'm here, Mom," Emily replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "We need to talk." Her mother glanced nervously over her shoulder before reluctantly stepping aside. "Your father and Megan are in the living room." Emily walked into the house she'd grown up in, now feeling like an intruder. In the living room, her father sat in his recliner while Megan perched on the arm of the sofa. Both looked up with expressions of surprise and, Emily noted with growing anger, guilt. "Emily," her father said, standing awkwardly. "We weren't expecting you." "Clearly," Emily replied. "Since you uninvited me from the family reunion without explanation, I figured I should come get that explanation in person." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Emily remained standing, unwilling to settle into the familiar comfort of her family home when everything felt so wrong. "Well," she prompted when no one spoke. "Is someone going to tell me what's going on, and maybe start with why I wasn't invited to Dad's retirement party, the one Brandon Wells organized?" At the mention of Brandon's name, her parents exchanged alarmed glances. "How do you know about that?" her father finally asked. "Does it matter?" "What matters is you all lied to me. You told relatives I couldn't attend because of work, when the truth is you never even told me about it." Megan stood up, her expression uncomfortable. "Emily, maybe you should sit down for this." "I don't want to sit down. I want answers." Her father sighed heavily suddenly, looking older than his 65 years. "Brandon came to me about 6 weeks ago with some concerning information." Emily's heart raced. "What information?" "He showed me emails," her father continued, his voice strained. "Emails between you and him from the past year." Emily stared in disbelief. "Emails? I haven't spoken to Brandon since college." "Emily," her mother interjected, "please don't make this harder. We've seen the emails. You've been involved with Brandon again, while married to James." The accusation hit Emily like a physical blow. "That's absolutely insane. I would never cheat on James. I haven't had any contact with Brandon in over a decade." Her father shook his head sadly. "The emails were from your work account, Emily. They detailed meetings at hotels, plans to leave James. Brandon showed me everything." "This is crazy," Emily said, her voice rising. "Those emails are fake. Why would you believe Brandon over your own daughter? Because why would he lie?" her mother countered. "What would he have to gain?" Emily laughed incredulously. "Are you serious? Brandon cheated on me in college, remember? Maybe he's still bitter that I moved on and built a happy life without him." "The emails seemed very authentic," her father said quietly, "and there were photos." Emily froze. Photos of what her parents exchanged, another uncomfortable look, of you entering hotel rooms. The timestamps matched the emails. "This is unbelievable," Emily whispered, her mind racing to make sense of what she was hearing. "You actually think I'm having an affair with Brandon based on some emails and photos he showed you? Did you even consider they might be fabricated?" Megan finally spoke up. I saw them too. They looked real. And remember last month when you said you were at that marketing conference in Chicago? Brandon had emails from that same weekend talking about how you both were together." Emily turned to her sister in shock. "I was at a marketing conference in Chicago. You can verify that with my entire office. How can you all be so easily manipulated?" "We didn't want to believe it either," her mother said, tears forming in her eyes. "But then we started noticing things. How you always keep your phone face down, how you've been working late more often, those mysterious weekend work trips." "Those aren't mysterious. They're normal parts of my job." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her own family had constructed an entire narrative of infidelity based on evidence from a man who had every reason to resent her. What about James? Emily demanded. Have you told him these ridiculous accusations too? Her father looked down. We felt he deserved to know. The room seemed to spin around Emily. You told my husband that I'm cheating on him based on fake evidence from my ex-boyfriend Emily. Her mother said softly, we were trying to protect the family. Your behavior affects all of us. The family reunion is important, and we didn't want drama. Emily laughed bitterly. So uninviting your daughter based on lies isn't drama, and since when does Megan avoiding drama matter to this family? She's been creating it her entire life, and you've always forgiven her. Megan flinched at the accusation, but remained silent. We thought giving you space would allow you time to come clean, her father explained, to end things with Brandon and recommit to your marriage. Emily shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe this. My entire family has turned against me because of obvious lies. Did none of you think to ask me first, to give me the benefit of the doubt? We were afraid you would deny it, her mother admitted. Of course I would deny it, because it's not true. Emily fought to control her emotions. You know what the worst part is? None of you really know me at all. If you did, you'd know I would never do something like this. I've spent my entire life trying to be perfect for this family, and at the first test of your trust, you all failed completely. Her father stood up straighter, his expression hardening. Emily, I understand you're upset, but… No, you don't understand anything, Emily interrupted. And until you're ready to accept that you've made a terrible mistake, I have nothing more to say to any of you. She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at her family. 3 people she'd loved and trusted her entire life, now strangers. For the record, I'll be spending next weekend with James, my husband, whom I've never cheated on. Enjoy your reunion. As Emily walked out of her childhood home, her phone buzzed with a text from James. We need to talk when you get home. Your dad called me. Emily got into her car, hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. Her family believed she was an adulterer. They had told her husband. All because of Brandon Wells and his fabricated evidence. As she drove away from the house, one thought crystallized in her mind. She would clear her name and expose Brandon's lies, whatever it took. V. The drive back to Boston felt interminable. Emily's mind raced with questions, fears, and growing anger. How could her family believe such lies? What exactly had they told James? And most importantly, what was Brandon's endgame in this elaborate deception? When Emily finally arrived home, she found James sitting at their kitchen table, his expression unreadable. James, she began, her voice breaking. Whatever my father told you, he said you've been having an affair with your ex-boyfriend. James interrupted, his voice flat. He said they have proof. Emily dropped into the chair across from him, suddenly exhausted. And do you believe that James studied her face for a long moment? I've been sitting here for hours trying to make it make sense, and it doesn't. Not the Emily I know. Relief washed over her. Thank you, she whispered. But James continued carefully. Your dad sounded so convinced. He mentioned emails, photos. They're fake, James. All of it. I haven't spoken to Brandon since college. I haven't seen him. I certainly haven't been sneaking off to hotels with him. Then why would he do this? What's his motive? Emily shook her head. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. That night, Emily and James developed a plan. First, they needed to obtain copies of the supposed evidence Brandon had presented to her family. Second, they needed to prove the emails were fabricated. And finally, they needed to understand Brandon's motivation. Emily called her colleague Zoe, who had a background in digital forensics before moving to marketing. I need your help with something unusual, Emily explained, before detailing the situation. Email spoofing isn't that difficult, Zoe said after hearing the full story. Especially if this Brandon guy works in tech. But proving they're fake will require access to the original emails he showed your parents. I'll get them, Emily promised. The next day, Emily drove back to Connecticut, this time catching her father alone as he returned from his morning golf game. Despite his initial reluctance, she convinced him to forward the emails Brandon had sent him. "I'm not showing you these to hurt you," her father said awkwardly as he forwarded them from his phone. "But maybe seeing them will help you acknowledge what's happening." Emily bit back a retort. Now wasn't the time for arguments. It was time for evidence gathering. Back in Boston, she and Zoe analyzed the emails. They appeared to be from Emily's work account to Brandon's personal Gmail, spanning the past 18 months. The content made Emily's stomach turn, intimate exchanges, plans for rendezvous, discussions about leaving James. There were even attached photos of hotel receipts. "These are good forgeries," Zoe admitted, examining the email headers, "but there are inconsistencies in the routing information. And look at this timestamp. It shows your email being sent through a server in Ukraine before hitting Gmail. That's not your company's normal email path." "So they are fake," Emily said, feeling vindicated. "Definitely. But proving that conclusively might be tricky. We need to find out how he created these." The photos were another matter. Emily recognized herself in several of them entering different hotels, but the dates didn't add up. This one, Emily pointed to a photo time-stamped March 15. "I remember this day. I was attending a marketing workshop at the Marriott. My entire department was there." James examined the photo. "And this one from February. Weren't we in New York visiting my parents that weekend?" They cross-referenced Emily's calendar, credit card statements, and work emails, confirming that every hotel visit captured in the photos had been legitimate, verifiable business purposes. "He's been stalking me," Emily realized with growing horror, taking photos of me at work, events, and business trips, then repurposing them to fit his narrative. "But why?" James asked. "What does he gain from destroying your relationship with your family?" The answer came unexpectedly that evening when Emily received a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Sorry about your family situation. Maybe we should talk." Brandon Emily stared at the message, adrenaline surging through her body. After consulting with James, she agreed to meet Brandon at a coffee shop the following day, a public place where James could watch from a distance. The Brandon Wells who sat across from Emily the next afternoon looked much the same as he had in college, handsome in a conventional way, with the same confident smile that had once charmed her. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sipping his coffee casually, as if he hadn't systematically destroyed her family relationships. "What do you want?" Brandon Emily asked coldly. His smile faltered slightly. "Look, I didn't expect things to blow up like this. I just wanted to get your attention." "My attention? You fabricated evidence of an affair and showed it to my family." Brandon leaned forward. "I needed you to understand what you walked away from. When I saw you again at the company Christmas party last year, all those old feelings came rushing back." Emily vaguely remembered seeing him across the room at her father's company event, but hadn't thought anything of it. "So this is about rejection. You couldn't handle that. I'm happily married to someone else. We were meant to be together, Emily." What we had in college ended when you cheated on me with my roommate," Emily interrupted. "I moved on 15 years ago. You should have too." Brandon's expression darkened. "You didn't even give me a chance to explain back then. You just left." "There was nothing to explain. I caught you in bed with her. It was a mistake." One mistake, Brandon's controlled facade began to crack, and then you got together with James so quickly afterward. "Do you know what that did to me?" Watching you build the perfect life with him, Emily realized she was looking at a deeply disturbed person, someone who had constructed an entire fantasy around their brief college relationship. "Brandon, you need help. This isn't normal behavior. What's not normal is how your family dropped you so easily," he countered. Some perfect family they turned out to be. They didn't even question the evidence. The calculated cruelty of his plan dawned on Emily. "You wanted to isolate me from my family, make me vulnerable so I'd turn to you." Brandon's smile returned, chilling now. I just showed them who you really are. Someone capable of betrayal, just like everyone else. Now you know how it feels. Those emails and photos are fake and I can prove it, Emily said firmly. My tech team has already identified inconsistencies in the email headers, and I have alibis for every hotel photo. Something flickered in Brandon's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps even fear. No one will believe you. Your family already thinks you're a liar. Maybe, but my company's legal team will believe the evidence when I report you for defamation, harassment, and fraudulent use of my professional identity. Brandon blanched. You wouldn't. I absolutely would. In fact, this entire conversation is being recorded. Emily gestured subtly toward James, who sat several tables away, phone pointed in their direction. And I've already filed a police report about your stalking. Brandon's confidence visibly crumbled. Emily, come on. I don't care what you wanted. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to write a complete confession, admitting that you fabricated everything. You're going to send it to my parents and copy me. Then you're going to find another job, preferably in another state, and never contact me or my family again. Or what Brandon challenged, though, his voice lacked conviction. Or I press charges, file for a restraining order, and make sure everyone at your company knows exactly what kind of person you are. Emily stood up. You have until tomorrow morning to send that confession. After that, my lawyer takes over. As Emily walked away, she felt a strange sense of calm. The mystery had been solved, but the damage to her family relationships remained. Would her parents believe Brandon's confession, or would they assume Emily had somehow coerced him? That evening, Emily forwarded all the evidence they'd gathered to her parents, the email header analysis, her alibis for the hotel, visits, and a recorded statement from Zoe explaining how the forgery likely occurred. She didn't mention her confrontation with Brandon or his promised confession. Do you think they'll believe it? James asked as they prepared for bed. Emily sighed. I don't know, but either way, I'm done trying to prove myself to people who should have trusted me from the start. What about the reunion? Emily considered this. The family reunion was this coming weekend. If Brandon sends his confession, maybe we should go, show a united front, make it clear we're not intimidated by their lack of faith in me. James nodded. I'm with you whatever you decide. Emily couldn't sleep that night, replaying the confrontation with Brandon and wondering if her family would ever fully trust her again. Around 3 a.m., her phone chimed with an email notification. It was from Brandon with her parents and sister copied. The subject line read simply, "The truth." In the email, Brandon confessed to fabricating the entire affair story out of misguided feelings and resentment. He admitted to stalking Emily, manipulating photos, and creating false emails. He apologized to everyone involved and stated he would be relocating to the Chicago office effective immediately. Emily read the email 3 times, relief washing over her. The confession was more comprehensive than she'd expected. Brandon had even included details about how he technically created the fake emails. Within minutes, her phone rang. It was her mother. Emily, she said, her voice thick with tears. We just got an email from Brandon. I saw it. He copied me. Honey, I don't know what to say. We made a terrible mistake. Emily closed her eyes, emotions warring within her. Part of her wanted to forgive instantly to return to the comfort of being the perfect daughter in a perfect family. But another part, a stronger part, knew that something fundamental had changed. Yes, she said simply. You did. We should have trusted you. I don't know why we didn't. Can you ever forgive us? Emily thought carefully before responding. I need time, Mom. You all chose to believe the worst about me without even giving me a chance to explain. That hurt more than you can imagine. I understand, her mother said softly. But please reconsider coming to the reunion. Everyone would love to see you." "I'll think about it," Emily promised, though she already knew her answer. The family's easy acceptance of Brandon's lies had revealed a painful truth. The perfect family dynamic she'd cherished was built on fragile ground. Rebuilding trust would take more than a single apology or a weekend reunion. It would require honest conversations about why they had been so quick to believe the worst of her, conversations that were long overdue. As the sun began to rise, Emily made her decision. She would attend the reunion, but not as the perfect daughter seeking approval. She would go as herself. Flawed but honest, strong enough to forgive, but wise enough to set new boundaries. The Parker family would never be the same again, and perhaps Emily thought as James stirred beside her that wasn't entirely a bad thing. Wait, did you enjoy that twist? If you did, smash that like button right now and don't forget to subscribe if you're following along with my story. We've just hit the turning point, and you won't want to miss what happens next when Emily confronts her family at the reunion. Keep watching to see how this family drama unfolds and whether real healing is possible after such a devastating betrayal. The drive to her parents' lakeside home that Friday afternoon felt surreal. Emily had spent the week processing her feelings, alternating between lingering anger and cautious hope for reconciliation. James squeezed her hand reassuringly as they turned onto the familiar tree-lined driveway. "Remember," he said gently, "we can leave any time you want." Emily nodded, taking a deep breath as the house came into view. Several cars were already parked outside, her Aunt Susan's SUV, her Uncle David's pickup truck, and of course, Megan's compact hybrid. The family reunion had officially begun. Diana Parker flung open the front door before Emily could even knock, engulfing her in a desperate embrace. "You came," she whispered, clinging to Emily like she might disappear. "I'm so glad you came." Emily returned the hug stiffly unprepared for the rush of conflicting emotions. Her father appeared behind her mother, his eyes red-rimmed and weary. "Emily," he said, voice cracking slightly. "James. Thank you for coming." The four of them stood awkwardly in the entrance hall, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Finally, Emily broke the silence. "We should join the others," she said, her tone deliberately neutral. The living room was filled with extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all pretending everything was normal, despite the obvious tension. Emily noticed several curious glances and hushed conversations that stopped abruptly when she approached. Word had clearly spread about the family drama, though she wondered which version they'd heard. Megan stood by the fireplace looking uncharacteristically subdued. When she spotted Emily, she hesitated before crossing the room. I'm so sorry," she began, her voice low. "I should have questioned things more. I should have trusted you." Emily studied her sister's face, searching for sincerity. "Yes, you should have. Can we talk privately?" Emily nodded, following Megan onto the back porch overlooking the lake. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the water, a scene from countless childhood memories now tinged with new complexity. "I've been thinking a lot about why we all believed Brandon so easily," Megan said, leaning against the railing, "and I think maybe it's because it was easier to believe you could make a mistake than to accept that you're actually as perfect as you seem." Emily blinked in surprise. "What? You've always been the golden child, Em. The one who does everything right. Sometimes it feels like Mom and Dad measure my entire existence against your accomplishments." Megan stared out at the lake. "When Brandon came with his story, there was this tiny part of me that was almost relieved. To think that maybe you weren't perfect after all. I've never been perfect, Megan. That's a ridiculous standard." Emily ran a hand through her hair, frustration evident in her gesture. "Do you have any idea how exhausting it is, trying to live up to everyone's expectations? I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, making the safe choices, doing what was expected of me. And the one time I needed you all to trust me, to believe in me, you didn't. Megan looked down, shame crossing her features. I know. And I'm truly sorry. The thing is, Emily continued, her voice softening slightly, I'm starting to realize that maybe this perfect daughter role I've been playing, maybe it's part of the problem. Maybe it's created this distance where none of you actually know the real me. What do you mean? Emily thought for a moment. The real me isn't always confident about her decisions. She sometimes resents having to be the responsible one. She gets jealous of how easily you're forgiven for your mistakes. She met Megan's surprised gaze. But she's also loyal and honest and would never cheat on her husband. That's something the real me and the perfect me have in common. Megan reached out hesitantly and touched Emily's arm. I want to know the real you, Em. I really do. A silence settled between them, not entirely uncomfortable. The first tentative step toward a new kind of relationship. Inside dinner was being served. Emily and James sat next to each other, a united front amid the strained family dynamics. Conversations around the table were careful, focusing on safe topics: work promotions, home renovations, Cousin Taylor's new boyfriend. No one mentioned the elephant in the room until Emily's father stood tapping his glass for attention. I'd like to say something, Robert Parker announced, his voice unusually solemn. First, I want to thank everyone for coming together for our annual reunion. Family means everything to Diana and me. He paused, looking directly at Emily. But recently, we failed a member of our family in a terrible way. We failed to trust our daughter Emily when she needed us most. We believed lies about her without giving her the benefit of the doubt. A hush fell over the table as relatives exchanged glances. Emily felt James's hand find hers under the table. Emily, her father, continued, voice breaking slightly, your mother and I owe you a public apology. We let you down and we're deeply sorry. I hope someday you can forgive us. The raw emotion in his voice caught Emily off guard. Her father had always been stoic, rarely displaying vulnerability. Seeing him like this, openly acknowledging his mistake before the entire family, touched something deep within her. We all owe Emily an apology, Aunt Susan added unexpectedly. I knew something seemed off about the whole situation, but I didn't speak up. I'm sorry, Emily. Others joined in a chorus of apologies and supportive comments that left Emily feeling simultaneously overwhelmed and strangely empowered. For the first time, she wasn't the perfect daughter everyone expected her to be. She was the wronged party deserving of amends. After dinner, Emily found herself alone with her father on the dock, both of them watching the sunset paint the lake in brilliant oranges and pinks. I've been thinking a lot about why we were so quick to believe Brandon, her father said finally. I think part of it might be my fault. Emily turned to him, curious. What do you mean I always put so much pressure on you to be perfect, to make the right choices, to be the responsible one? Maybe. Maybe when Brandon came with his story, some part of me was almost expecting you to fail eventually. Because no one can be perfect forever. The honesty of his admission struck Emily deeply. Dad, I'm not perfect. I never have been. I've just been really good at showing you what you wanted to see. Her father nodded slowly. I realize that now. And I wonder how much I've missed. How much of the real you I don't know. Because I was so focused on the perfect image. They sat in contemplative silence until her father spoke again. I'd like to start over, Emily. Get to know the real you if you'll let me. Emily thought about this, the possibility of a relationship with her parents based on authenticity rather than expectations. It was both terrifying and liberating. I'd like that too, she said finally. But it's going to take time. And things need to change. Whatever it takes, her father promised. As the weekend progressed, Emily found herself engaged in honest conversations with various family members, many of whom shared perspectives she'd never considered. Uncle David confessed he'd always been intimidated by her success. Cousin Taylor admitted to resenting the way everyone compared her unfavorably to Emily. Even her mother revealed feelings of inadequacy about her parenting, wondering if she'd somehow failed by putting so much pressure on Emily to excel. These revelations painted a picture of a family dynamic far more complex than Emily had realized, one where her perfect daughter role had created ripple effects throughout the entire family system. By Sunday afternoon, as the reunion drew to a close, Emily felt emotionally drained but strangely lighter. The foundations of a new kind of relationship with her family had been laid, one based on honest communication rather than impossible expectations. As she and James packed their car to leave, Megan approached with a small gift bag. "What's this?" Emily asked. "Open it," Megan urged. Inside was a framed photo of the two sisters as children playing in the lake. On the back, Megan had written, "To new beginnings and real sisterhood." No more perfect, no more screw-up, just Emily and Megan. Emily smiled, feeling the first genuine warmth toward her sister in years. "I'd like that." The drive home was quiet, both Emily and James processing the emotional weekend. "Do you think things will actually change?" James asked eventually. Emily considered the question carefully. "I think they already have. Maybe not completely and maybe not permanently. But something shifted this weekend. Your dad seemed genuinely remorseful." He did, Emily agreed. "But more importantly, I think I changed. I'm done trying to be the perfect daughter. It's exhausting, and ultimately it didn't even protect me when it mattered." James smiled. "I've always preferred the imperfect Emily anyway. She's much more interesting." As they approached Boston, Emily received a text from her mother. "This weekend was just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do as a family, but I want you to know how much we love you. Not the perfect you, but all of you." Emily felt tears prick her eyes. The road to rebuilding trust would be long, but for the first time she believed it was possible. The family's quick acceptance of Brandon's lies had revealed deep cracks in their foundation, cracks that had always been there, hidden beneath a veneer of perfection. Now exposed, they could finally begin to heal properly. 1 month after the family reunion, Emily sat in her therapist's office, reflecting on the changes in her life. Dr. Levine, a calm woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a straightforward manner, had been helping Emily navigate the aftermath of what she now called the Brandon incident. "I had dinner with my parents last weekend," Emily shared. "It was different." "Good different, I think." "Different how Dr. Levine asked?" Emily considered the question. "I told them about my promotion at work, and instead of just saying, 'Of course you got it,' like they usually would, they asked how I felt about taking on more responsibility, if I was worried about work-life balance." She smiled slightly. "They actually wanted to know my feelings, not just celebrate my achievement." "And how did that feel?" "Strange at first, but nice," Emily admitted. "I told them I was excited but also nervous, and that sometimes I worry about taking on too much. I've never said anything like that to them before. The past month had been a period of significant adjustment. After the reunion, Emily had made several important decisions. First, she'd started therapy to process her feelings about her family's betrayal and to examine patterns in her own life. Second, she'd established clear boundaries with her parents and Megan, weekly phone calls, but no more dropping everything to meet their expectations or solve their problems. And third, she'd filed a formal complaint against Brandon with her father's company, resulting in an official reprimand being added to his personnel file. Brandon had indeed transferred to the Chicago office as promised, but Emily had wanted documentation of his behavior in case he ever targeted anyone else. Her father, to his credit, had fully supported her decision and even spoke to HR personally about the situation. "How are things with your sister?" Dr. Levine asked. Emily sighed. "Complicated. We're talking more honestly than before, but there's still this competitiveness between us. Old habits die hard, I guess. And has she respected your new boundaries? Mostly." She called last week asking for money to cover her rent like she used to do, but when I suggested she talk to our parents instead, she didn't push back. Emily smiled wryly. Progress? Doctor. Levine nodded approvingly. And how about at work? Have you made any changes there? This was perhaps the most significant shift in Emily's life. After years of taking on extra projects and working late to maintain her image as the perfect employee, she had begun setting limits at work as well. I turned down heading the holiday marketing campaign, Emily said. I told my boss I needed to maintain better balance, especially since James and I are still talking about starting a family. That's a big step. How did your boss respond? Better than I expected. She actually thanked me for being upfront, rather than taking on too much and burning out. Emily shook her head in wonder. All this time I thought people would be disappointed if I didn't say yes to everything, but mostly they just want honesty. As therapy progressed, Emily had come to recognize how deeply the perfect daughter role had shaped her entire identity. She saw how her need for approval and fear of disappointment had dictated her choices in every area of life, from her career path to her cautious approach to marriage and family planning. The Brandon incident, painful as it was, had forced her to confront these patterns. James says I'm more relaxed now, Emily told Dr. Levine, less anxious about every little decision. Do you feel that way? Emily nodded. I do. It's like I spent my whole life terrified of making a mistake, of losing my perfect daughter status. But then it happened anyway, through no fault of my own, and I survived. The world didn't end. Doctor. Levine smiled. That's a powerful realization. It's liberating, Emily agreed. And the irony is, my relationships are actually stronger now. James and I are communicating better than ever. He says he feels like he's getting to know parts of me I always kept hidden. The session concluded with Emily setting goals for the coming month, continuing to establish healthy boundaries, practicing vulnerability, and making decisions based on her own values rather than others' expectations. As she left the therapist's office and walked to her car, Emily's phone rang. It was her mother. Emily, dear, I just wanted to check if you and James are still coming for Thanksgiving next month. Your father is already planning the menu. In the past, Emily would have immediately said yes, rearranging any conflicting plans to accommodate her parents. But now, she paused. Actually, Mom, James, and I were thinking of hosting Thanksgiving at our place this year. We'd love for you and Dad to come, and Megan too, of course. There was a brief silence on the other end. Oh, well, that would be different. Emily smiled to herself. Different can be good, Mom. I make an excellent turkey, and James has his grandmother's pumpkin pie recipe. I'm sure it will be lovely, her mother said, recovering quickly. Should we bring anything? Just yourselves, Emily replied. And maybe that cranberry salad you make. As they finished the conversation, Emily felt a quiet satisfaction. Hosting Thanksgiving was a small but significant step, reshaping family traditions on her own terms rather than automatically following established patterns. When she arrived home, James was in the kitchen preparing dinner, something he'd taken on more often, as Emily adjusted her work schedule. How was therapy? He asked, kissing her. Hello. Good. Productive. Emily leaned against the counter, watching him chop vegetables. I invited my parents here for Thanksgiving. James raised his eyebrows. Bold move. How did they take it? Mom was surprised, but she didn't object. I think they're still in the making amends phase where they're afraid to push back on anything I say. Are you taking advantage of that? James asked, a smile playing at his lips. Emily laughed. Maybe a little. But mostly I just want to establish that things are different now. That I'm not automatically falling into old roles and patterns. James nodded approvingly. I think it's healthy. Plus now they'll finally get to taste my famous pie. As they sat down to dinner, Emily found herself reflecting on the strange journey of the past few months. Brandon's malicious scheme had been meant to isolate her, to break apart her family, and possibly her marriage. Instead, it had ultimately forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths and begin building more authentic relationships. "I got an email from my dad today," Emily mentioned as they ate. "Brandon quit last week. Apparently, he's moving to Seattle." "Good riddance," James said firmly. "Though in a weird way, we almost owe him." Emily looked up surprised. "How do you figure?" "Well, if he hadn't pulled his crazy stunt, would you have ever confronted all this stuff with your family? Started therapy, made these changes. Emily considered this. Probably not. At least not so quickly or directly." She shook her head. "It's strange to think something so painful could lead to something positive." "Life is funny that way," James agreed. "Sometimes the worst moments end up changing us for the better." That night, as Emily prepared for bed, she received a text from Megan. "Hey, Mom says we're doing Thanksgiving at your place this year. Need any help planning?" The old Emily would have politely declined, not wanting to risk Megan complicating her carefully organized plans. But now she found herself typing, "Actually, yes. Want to come over next weekend and help me figure out the menu?" Megan's reply came quickly. "Seriously, that would be awesome. I have some ideas from this cooking class I've been taking." Emily smiled at her sister's enthusiasm. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new kind of sisterhood, one based on collaboration rather than competition. As she set her phone aside and climbed into bed beside James, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. The past few months had taught her that perfection was not only impossible, but ultimately undesirable. Real relationships, with all their complexities and occasional conflicts, were far more valuable than maintaining a flawless image. The family trauma had forced everyone to see each other more clearly, not as the roles they had assigned one another, but as complex individuals with strengths and weaknesses, hopes and fears. Emily was no longer just the perfect daughter Megan, no longer just the problem child, and their parents no longer just the authority figures who needed to be pleased at all costs. They were all simply people doing their best to love each other despite their flaws, and there was something genuinely perfect about that imperfection. 6 months after the Brandon incident, Emily stood in her kitchen, putting final touches on a birthday cake. The doorbell rang, and James went to answer it, returning with her parents and Megan, all bearing gifts and warm smiles. "Happy birthday, honey," her mother said, embracing Emily with genuine warmth. "The place looks great," her father commented, noticing the new paint in the dining room, a project Emily and James had tackled together, choosing a bold color that the perfect Emily would have considered too risky. As they gathered around the table, laughing and sharing stories, Emily felt a profound gratitude. Her family wasn't perfect, far from it, but they were learning, growing, and rebuilding trust day by day. When Brandon's lies had temporarily shattered their family, it had revealed something important. True family bonds aren't built on perfection, but on forgiveness, honest communication, and the courage to see each other as we truly are. To Emily, James raised his glass in a toast. And to family, the messy, complicated, wonderful reality of it. Everyone clinked glasses, and Emily smiled, finally comfortable in her beautifully imperfect life. This story really made me think about how family relationships can transform through difficult times. Have you ever experienced a misunderstanding that actually led to deeper connections once resolved? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more family stories with unexpected twists, and share with someone who might need to hear that perfection isn't necessary for love. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and remember, sometimes what seems like karma or justice is actually an opportunity for growth and transformation. See you in the next video.